Hello, how are you? This is Lynette, and it's about time. We're in Genesis 35 tonight, Genesis 35 through 37, and I'm so excited about being in the Word. This is a blessing for us all, and I get blessed by pouring into you and by reading the Word, and I learn as much, even more when I'm delivering than I do when I'm the person that's receiving. I promise you, I'm still receiving it as I go along. It's still coming to me. All right, so here we go. Good evening. So we start off with Jacob moves to Bethel or Bethel, and Bethel means house of God. So what a blessing! He's already This is Jacob's making that move. The Lord's told him to go. So it says, sorry, then God said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel, and live there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." So when you fled the first time, you need to go on back to where you fled to. That's where you need to go. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Remove the foreign gods which are among you, and purify yourselves." Remember when he left um uh Laban's house, he was saying he didn't have anything. And Rachel was hiding those gods. He says, "Remove the foreign gods which are among you, and purify yourselves, and change your garments. Let's arise, go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me on the day of my distress, and has been with me wherever I have gone." He is acknowledging that the Lord has been with him the entire time. Wherever he has gone, the Lord has been with him. And he told him to get rid of those foreign gods. They have to go and put on, it says, and change your garments and purify yourselves. So there's a time that's gonna come when we're gonna need to change our garments. We should, put off sometimes we want to stay the way we are. We want to put new wine into these old wineskins. It's time for us to change our garments and put on the garments of praise. It's time for us to stand up and be who we are in Christ. And so I'm way excited about the fact that Jacob's already seeing this thing. It says, as they journeyed there, and so I'll say this. So they gave Jacob all their foreign gods. So they did give it to them this time. So it was no holding back like Rachel was holding on to her foreign gods when she stole the gods from her father, which is suspect anyway. But when she saw this man was being blessed, I would have definitely followed him. But she was holding on to the foreign gods. But this God, she gave her foreign gods up to Jacob as well. And he says, they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and the rings which were in their ears. So no earrings in her ear, right? And Jacob hid them under the oak which was near Shechem, right? He got rid of that right there under the. And remember, Shechem was also the name of that gentleman that had violated his daughter. And they journeyed there. And they journeyed. There was a great terror upon the cities which were around them. So the people around them were scared, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. They didn't bother them after what had happened with Shechem and what they had done with the father, and when they killed all those men. Um, they didn't pursue them because there was a great terror of them. So Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. Then he built an altar there, and he called the place El Bethel, or El Bethel, because their God had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. So the Lord told him to go back to El Bethel. That's where God was. And Bethel means the house of God. That's what that means. So he went to the house, back to the house of God. Even in Canaan, there was a place, called the house of God. Um, Now Deborah, Rebecca's nurse. Remember back in the day when Isaac came when Isaac sent Abraham sent his servant to find Isaac a wife amongst the brethren, his brother's people. He came back with Rebecca, and he came back with her nurse. So her nurse's name was Rebecca. Her name was excuse me. Let me slow down. Her nurse's name was Deborah, and she died when they got back, and she was buried below Bethel under the oak, and it was called Alon Bakuth. And this book is called, that means the oak of weeping. So she was um, um, buried there. So here we go. We're going into it. Then God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padan Aram, and he blessed him. Again, he blessed him. When God appears, there's a blessing. There's a blessing God for this family. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name." Israel. And what does Israel mean? One who prevails with God. Put that L on the end of it, it's going to be God somewhere in there. That's why that whole Bethel, Beth El, house is Beth, and the L of God. Same thing with his name is going to be Israel, one who prevails with God. He wrestled with God. Remember, he wrestled with that God, and got that hip issue and became limp, and a little I, I wouldn't what's it's not called handicap, but became disabled at that point. And so there we are. So his name is Israel now, one who wrestles with God and prevails, one who prevails with God. He says, so he called him Israel. God also said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a multitude of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from you. Telling the same thing that he told his daddy. And kings shall come from you. And the land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you. I gave this land to your fathers, and I'm going to give it to you. And I will give the land to your descendants after you. So your descendants are going to have somewhere to stay. You don't have to worry about giving them any income property and leaving them the land. I've left some land for them. When the Lord's already taken care of the inheritance for you, he's already taken care of the insurance papers. God's got the insurance. God's got the 401k. God's got it. Then God went up from him at the place where he had spoken with him. So God went up from him at that place where he had spoken with him. God went up. So Jacob set up a memorial stone in the place where he had spoken with them. See, that's what we need to do when God comes in the midst. And we need to make that place special. When God appears, we need to reverence the place where God appeared. Do we reverence God like that? We respect him, but do we? But and I would say up to a point. But I don't know that we really pay attention enough to because we don't get those visitations at church. Oh my God, it was such a good a moment or whatever else, or you in the car, or you at the house. Have you made an altar for him? Have you put a memorial stone? And this is where God, that the day I was weeping, I could feel the presence of the Lord. That should be memorialized. That should be captured, so you can go back and tell your children about how God visited you there. That, or tell your nephews or nieces or whoever it is that comes in the house, that they know where God visited. It's really important that we let our children know that this is where God was with us. There should be an L somewhere where God was, a Bethel. You shouldn't just be a house of prayer, your whole body, but somewhere where you are in the house, your prayer closet, it should be memorialized. Whatever it is, that chair where he visited you, whatever the little space is, there should be a place where you say, God visited me there. God, we should have a relationship such that he's coming to visit us on a regular basis. These are just my thoughts. I'm throwing it out there. Anyway, still going. And so Jacob set up a memorial stone in the place where he had spoken with him, a memorial of stone. So he had a memorial stone and a memorial of stone. And he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Now, I'm not going to pollute it, but I'm going to say this. Maybe this is where the homies get it when they pour the beer on the, which is one for the homies. You know how the little gangsters always pour the beer over at the gravesite. Maybe they got it from here. I'm just saying they might have been borrowing it, because hey, maybe that's their drink offering, blaspheming. But I mean, but I'm just saying this is where that originated from. It seems very, very similar. I'm going to go throw it off, but I'm going to keep on going. And he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. So he didn't just do the drink offering. He poured oil on it. And Jacob named the place where God had spoken to him Bethel, which again, I told you, it means house of God. Then they journeyed on from Bethel. But when there was still some distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, and she suffered severe difficulties in her labor. And when she was suffering severe difficulties in her labor, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." And it came about as her soul was departing, for she died, that she named him Ben Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. No, that's not what we're gonna do. We're not gonna name him after our suffering. That's not what we're gonna do. We're not gonna name him after our suffering. We're gonna call him Benjamin. This is what we're going to call him. He renamed him. He wasn't playing those games. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, and that is Bethlehem. That was Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a memorial stone over her grave. That is the memorial stone of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder. All right. I wonder how quickly the children, well, they probably just called him father, how quickly everybody around him transitioned to the new name. When you get a new name, make sure people, when God gives you a new name, and whatever the new thing is, make sure everybody calls you that, or acknowledges that new name. Don't let you, you're no longer a liar. You're no longer deceiver. You're no longer, if you was, that the thought over there. Make sure you're no longer that. I am grace. I am love. I am honesty. I am, I am encourager. I have a new name. I'm a new creature. Make sure that your new name is acknowledged, because if you keep hearing that often enough, that's who you'll become. And this boy made sure, because of the fact that Jacob knew what a name meant. He had been through a whole lot of stuff in his own lifetime. He knew he had been called Jacob, which meant deceiver, the entire time of his life. And he was not going to let his son be called Benoni, because it was all Benoni, because that was his situation. And it, about grief and born through her suffering. No, he changed that boy's name to Benjamin, so that it had some other significant meaning, and he could live up to that name, because that's not okay to put to give our children names that hurt. It's just really not okay. And so I'm glad that he had enough sense to not let this woman in her pain name his child. And I was just like, yes, that's what's up, brother Israel. And the one who wrestled with God and prevailed. And by the way, Benjamin means son of the right hand. Just want to say that out loud. I'm not playing about these names anymore. We're not going to name our children bad names. The fact that he was even allowed to be called Jacob all that time, and he lived up to that name. It's really important that that people call us who we are, and call things as though they were, because that's what the name does for you. You start walking in that thing, whether it be good or bad. And it's really important that, when name a little girl Diamond, she starts acting like she's a precious stone. You name a girl Jewel, but when you give her these names that, little Alizé, I'm no, shade to the Alizés and the Brandies and the, Cavassiers and all the other drink names, but I'm just going to say, sometimes we live it out, and it's really important that we give kids something to aspire to. Just throwing it out there. Having said that, I'm going to keep on going. And it came about while Israel was living in the land that Reuben went and slept, living in that land, and Reuben went out and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah. And Israel heard about it. Why you got to go sleep with out of all the women in the world, I'm going to go sleep with my father's concubine. And his father heard about it. Now, but he didn't make any bones about it, but his father heard about it. Was that the purpose? What was that really about? Now there were 12 sons of Jacob. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, then Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's female slave, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female slave, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had resided. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years old. Remember, his daddy lived till he was 100. Abraham lived till 175. This boy outlived his father by 5 years. Then Isaac breathed his last and died, and he was gathered to his people, an old man of ripe age. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. What a beautiful thing that they came together before their father passed on. And to be able to bury their father. We need to make sure that as much as we can, we give opportunity for reconciliation so that our upline, if you will, our the people that we stem from, our fathers, our grandfathers, and whoever else, aunties and uncles, can see reconciliation. They can see the fruit of their labor, all that they poured into us. It's important that that's important that happens. Just throwing it out there. Now, here we go. Genesis 36. Now, these are the records of the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Edom. So Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan. That's what he was doing. Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. So he had a Hivite and a Hittite. Also, Basmath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. So he was with Ishmael's daughter, and can I say Uncle Ishmael? Uncle Ishmael. We was just really doing the thing. I'm just saying. So I'm with my cousin. I've gone through the girls, and out of the Hittite girls and the Hivites girls, he's doing some things. He's kind of gay. He does love them ites. He's Canaanites, and then we out here and with the Hivites and the Hittites and the Jebusites and probably some mosquito bites too. We just got a whole lot of ites going on. You're right about that. Ada bore Eliphaz to Esau, and Basmath gave birth to Ruel, and Oholibamah gave birth to Jush, and Jalam and Korah. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Okay, great. So he had quite a few sons. And so then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all his household, and his livestock, and all his cattle, and all his property, which he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to another land away from his brother, for their possessions had become too great for them to live together. Sounds like Lot and Abraham. The land could not, according to what it says, that the land could not support all of them because they had too much wealth in livestock for them to be able to feed them all. So he had to go somewhere else. I pray that level of wealth for you, that you have so much wealth that you are not able, that the land cannot support you. I pray that blessing upon your lives as well. Let's keep it pushing. We're just on verse 9, chapter 36, though. We're moving through this bad boy, I promise you. And then it records the generation of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons. We said Eliphaz and Ruel, and then it names his grandsons, and these are all from Ada, right? This is where this and Basmath. Basmath. And the sons of Eliphaz were his grandsons were Timon, Omar, Zepho, Gadam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was a concubine of Esau's son, Eliphaz, and she bore him Amalek. Okay, so he had a great grandson that was a part of this situation. So he's doing his thing. I've got to give him that. And so he had a lot of kids too. He didn't have as many sons as Israel did. He didn't have as many sons, but he had a lot of kids. Kids were wealth as well. And so this is a great thing that even though he didn't get the birthright, but even though he didn't get the birthright, he still was blessed, just like Ishmael was from Abraham, because of who he was, because of who his father was. That blessing, you may not get what you want, but you're going to get something. You may not. My blessing's not going to be yours, and yours may not be mine. But because of whose we are, we're not going to be left lacking. This boy wasn't left lacking. And let's just say he didn't always follow the rules in the first place. He did not. We know that it grieved his father and his mother because he went to the Canaanites and got him a woman. He was, doing too much. I'm not. And he also had an issue with, self-control. Sold his birthright, for some food. Did we have no self-control? Couldn't we just discipline ourselves a little bit? I know he had been working all day, but my God, the birthright, I think I would have been able to fast just a little bit longer. I would have been able to wait a couple of hours for dinner. These are my thoughts. go get a berry. He was really impulsive, and he let the lust of the flesh control him. Clearly, with all the ites he was with as well. So Esau was prosperous, and I'm very excited. But I was also excited that he moved. They didn't need to live together. That was going to get old quick, especially with all the stuff that he had dealt with regards to uh, his younger twin brother. And let's not forget, we talk about the fact that they were brothers. They weren't just brothers, they were in the womb together. They shared a womb. There is a bond between twins, whether they be identical, whether they, fraternal, maternal, doesn't make a difference. There's a bond. And so and he was forgiving, and it took him a while, but he felt like he really didn't lose. There was going to be responsibilities on on Israel that this boy could not, with his impulsive nature and his inability to I guess control himself and to discipline himself, that he wasn't going to be able to handle that Israel had to bear. I mean, as we'll see later on. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of things that are going on. There's a long lineage. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but he had Esau had loads of descendants, loads, and the Edomites are a huge group. Some say that they are the upline of, and their descendants are the Romans, which is interesting how the Romans, and the Israelites there, and the fact that they're cousins and they're fighting and all these other things. Some say some scholars it varies. So I don't want to speak one scholar over another, but it varies. Anyway, there's a whole lot going on along here. I'm going to end with the names of the chiefs that descended from Esau, according to their families and their localities, and by their names. Chief Timnah, which remember one of his sons. Chief Alva, Chief Jephthah, Chief Oholibamah, remember his, one of his sons, or one of his, I think it's one of his wives. In fact, it was one of his wives. They renamed the son that. Chief Eli, excuse me, Chief Pinan, Chief Kenaz, Chief Timon, and Chief Mibzar, Chief Magdiel, and Chief Iram. He has all these chiefs. So not necessarily kings, because he lived in the hill country, but he had chiefs. So he had leaders in his family as well, just like Ishmael had princes in his family. Now he had chiefs, Ishmael had princes, but what's coming through Israel's line? Kings. Kings are coming through his line. And that's a huge difference. God appointed kings coming through this line, through this boy. I'm just saying, we got the princes from Ishmael, we've got the chiefs from Esau, and we've got the kings coming from Israel. That's a thing. Just want to say. All right, now we're on chapter 37. Joseph's dreams. No. Now we already know that Israel was dreaming. That was what got him in trouble, and he was, a little bit too. Because he ran from Laban that last dream. Remember, that was the issue, and Laban was, why are you leaving me with leaving my house with your with my daughters and my sons and all these my family or whatever else in the middle of the night, like a thief in the night or whatever else. And he told him about, basically, because he had a dream, he knew he better leave. God told him to get up out of there, and he did. When God said move, he moved, just like that. He had that ludicrous anointing. All right, I'm moving on. So he says, now Jacob lived in the land where his father had lived as a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the records of the generations of Jacob. All right, Joseph, that was the last. We talked about Jacob and before. So now Joseph, when he was 17 years of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Can anybody say snitch? Can anybody say tattletale? These are my thoughts. Back in the day, they would say, back in my day, snitches get stitches. He was asking for some things. You just can't tell everything. There's some sort of bro code. He didn't have no knowledge of the bro code. Didn't have any. I'm just saying, right tattletale. Who does that? Anyway, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his other sons. Who does that? That's not okay. First, can I say first bad parent? Is he the first? I mean, is he one of the first bad parents? Because I can't say Adam and Eve were bad because Cain was out of control. I can't say it, And we saw, well, although Isaac was not the best parent, neither was Rebecca with their favoring. So here's this man favoring. Remember, we talked about this before. Kids do what you do, not what you say. So what was modeled before him was favoring. Now he's also favoring. Although he got rid of that whole name me the bad thing. He didn't want that part of what mom and them did. But he's still gonna do this favoring thing. That's not okay. He saw that role, the separation that happened between he and his twin with that favoring thing, yet he still repeats the same sin. Come on now. This one right here wouldn't have been the one I repeated, but he's there with it. All right. Because he was a son of his old age. That's why he loved him more than the other sons. And he made him, a multicolored tunic. So now we're giving the boy, we're gonna hand make the boy some stuff, and we're gonna not mention any of the other kids. And so they hated him and could not speak to him on friendly terms. I can't even say hello. I can't even say good morning to you because I just can't stand you. You ever been around somebody just I can't talk to them? Good morning. I ain't saying you don't say nothing. Just I can't even muster a good morning because I don't feel that for you. That right there, that's some I hate you things. Then Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. Well, of course. He said to them, please listen to this dream which I have had. You know why he said that? Please listen to this dream. Because he was used to being listened to because he was the youngest and his dad favored him. He was used to, how little kids, whatever they say, they're used to, little so-and-so go dance in front of so-and-so. And guess I want to say something, daddy. And they just all listen to whatever it is. They told us to get out the room when we were talking. And, grown folks talking. He could talk in the room. He's one of them little kids that could talk in the room. He didn't understand the room. There was grown folks in the room. And then there was the other kids. He didn't understand. Yes, my friend. He was used to being the center of attention. And he didn't have any boundaries. He didn't know. And Joseph couldn't read the room. Let's learn. Know when you're not favored. Know how to read the room. You got it. But of course, all of this had to happen in order for us to get to where we're going to go. But let us learn from our brother Joseph. Learn how to read the room. Know when your conversation is not going to be well received. Know when people don't like you. If they're not even speaking to you kindly, you've got to learn how. You can't tell them no dream. And can I say duh? These are my thoughts. So he says, please listen to this dream which I have had. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheep stood up and also remained standing. And behold, your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheep. Because that's what I want to hear. Your sheep bowed down to mine. And I'm sure they were saying, are you kidding me? What did you say to me? That would have been my thing. What did you say to me? Oh, no, he didn't. That's where I would have been. And then his brother said to him, are you actually going to reign over us? Or are you really going to rule over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. How could they hate him anymore? They already couldn't even talk to him. And they hated him because of the tunic that his father made him. Now he's dreaming. And they hated him even more because of his dreams and his words. My mind. Then he had yet another dream and informed his brothers of it. Yeah, I'm going to go with he just could not. Kathy, did you tell on them? I didn't do any telling. I didn't. I was the youngest. You know why? Because I could read the room. And I knew that once my mother left, it was going down. It was going down. And I was too young for that foolishness. Not me, my friend. I could read the room. And I had been in the room, and although I still got it when she wasn't around, and if according to how bad it got, I would tell. But for the most part, it wasn't no telling. I was not involved in the tattletale business. That's a business arrangement. I had the code down. I'm going to keep on moving lest I digress here. Behold, I have had yet another dream. And behold, the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. The sun and the moon and 11 stars. I wonder who the 11 stars are. Who says that? And his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you have had? Am I and your mother and your brothers actually going to come? So he understood that he was the sun and she was the moon, actually going to come to bow down to the ground before you? And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Because his father knows that these dreams mean something. This boy not just dreaming because I have the same gifting. This is how God communicates with me. So I know I'm gonna keep this in mind. Now I may not, I'm gonna rebuke him because I can't have the mutiny in my camp, but I'm gonna keep this bad boy in mind. And so here we go. Then his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "Are you?" By the way, this is pretty bold, right? They're going back to the man's land who they killed, and they doing their pasturing in the flock. I'm just throwing the father's flock. I probably wouldn't have gone back to that town, although they did some things, and they was like prevailing and everything. I probably wouldn't have gone back to that town. It's a bold move. These are my thoughts. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are your brothers not pasturing the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." What was it? Israel couldn't read the room either. He couldn't read the room. They don't like the boy. Don't send him over there. Warning, warning. And he said to him, and he knows their temperament. He knows they're hotheads. And he said to him, I'll go. And then he said to him, go down and see about the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock and bring word back to me. Go back and tell them, go see what they're doing and tell them some more. This is not the way we want to go. So he went. He sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem, and a man found him, and the man asked him what he was looking for. And then he said, I'm looking for my brothers, and the man showed him where they were. Then the plot came. When they saw him from a distance, and before he came closer to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. We're killing this boy. We already killed somebody already. This is what we do. This is what we do. We plot together and we kill together. Let's get rid of the little boy. He gotta go. Here comes this dreamer. Be careful who you tell your dreams to. I'm sure you've heard this sermon before, so I won't spend any time on that. But be careful. I'll just leave it there. Now then come and let's kill him and throw him into one of the pits. And he will say, a vicious animal devoured him. He says, well, we will say that. And we will see what will become of his dreams then, right? But Reuben heard this and rescued him out of their hand by saying, let's not take his life. You should be the one in the crowd that is talking, being the voice of reason. That's who we should be. We are atmosphere shifters. We should not be the ones, the rebel rousers. We should not be throwing, yeah. We shouldn't be throwing any fuel on the fire. We should be the ones that are the voices of reason. That's supposed to be our role. So we should be Reubens in this case. Just saying, throwing it out there. All right. He says, so it came about when Joseph reached his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic and the multicolored tunic that was on him. And they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty without any water in it. So it was dry. They threw him down in there. And they sat down to eat a meal. Now, how about that? I've done something bad and I'm gonna go rest and eat. Who does that? People that hate you. Be able to learn to read the room. I understand he was 17. Learn to read the room. Learn to read the room early. Serve God while you're yet young. Learn. Let's teach our children. Let's teach our grandchildren. Let's teach our nieces and nephews how to read the room. Let this be a lesson. We don't want none of ours thrown into the pit. Let us stop them. They need to learn how to read the room. And everybody's smiling is not your friend. And everybody that's got the same blood is not for you. We've got to teach them how to read the room, because this right here should have never happened. Not on my watch. I understand it needed to happen for us to get to where we need to go, and for deliverance and all that that's going to happen later on in the book. But he needed to. Yes, they that was evil. It was, but we have to. They need to be able to read the room, the evil in the room. We have to learn discernment. Hashtag. Can we say discernment, Joseph? Can we say discernment, Israel? I guess he felt like he was so respected, Israel did, that they wouldn't do this to their brother or to his son. Okay. All right. So he did that, and they came and went to eat a meal. But as they raised their eyes and looked, behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead. Ishmaelites, the cousins, was coming through. Here come the cousins, right? With their camels carrying a lot of different stuff, resin, balsam, myrrh. They're on their way going down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it for us to kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. We're not gonna really gain them from killing him. Let's sell him. For he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened to him. Then they didn't listen to Reuben, but they did listen to our boy Judah. Remember, that's the praiser. Before we get our praise on, you see, we get our coins, and we do some sinning. He wasn't always a praiser. There was a time before that, the different tribes were set up, that he was doing some dirt. We all have a past. Here we go. Then some Midianite traders passed by, so they pulled him out and lifted Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Back to that 20 shekels of silver. This silver is a big deal. Let's not forget Judas. So they brought Joseph into Egypt. Now Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, so he tore his garments. He returned to his brothers and said, so he didn't know, "The boy is not there. As for me, where am I to go?" So they took Joseph's tunic and slaughtered a male goat and dipped the tunic in the blood. And they sent the multicolored tunic and brought it to their father and said, "We found this. Please examine it to see whether it is your son's tunic or not." Your sons, not our brothers, your sons, because this is what we call them. Then he examined it and said, "It is my son's tunic." Who says that? Who says that? It is your brother's tunic. Yes, it's my baby boys. You guys are my older ones. You're sounding way shady and not so nice, father. So Jacob, at this time, they're not calling him Israel right here. So Jacob tore his clothes and put on a sackcloth undergarment over his waist and mourned for his son many days. And then all his sons and all his daughters got up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. There's going to be a time, I understand that death is, hard, and especially when it's your kids, but he refused to be comforted. We cannot refuse comfort. We cannot refuse comfort. And he said, surely, and at the expense of relationship with our other kids, we cannot refuse comfort. "Surely I will go down to Sheol or Sheol in mourning for my son." That's their purgatory, if you will, the place they go to die. So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold into Egypt to Potiphar, Pharaoh's officer, the captain of the bodyguard. All right. Yes, the treachery. So much happening in this chapter. It's getting ready to get good. So this is our we have firsts here, right? So this is our first encounter with slavery. Other than isn't that interesting? Can I say this? Jacob at the time sold himself into slavery. And his son is his son, that he called him, was sold into slavery. How interesting. I'm just throwing it out there. He sold himself, and this boy was sold by his brothers. Be careful what you do. Be careful how you act. Every sin that you commit, it doesn't always happen to you. What you do does affect others. The sins of the fathers shall revisit the sons. You don't always pay. Throwing that out there. All right. You all have a great rest of your day. This is it. Tomorrow comes another episode in this way big story, better known as the Bible. I love it. God is good. You all have a great rest of your day. See you next time. It's about time, right? It's about time. It's about time. See you tomorrow.